I gotta shit out some content.
Hello and welcome to the Swim Brief. We got the whole band back together this week. We're so excited. I have a kid out of school. Joel has a kid out of school. Eric, as usual,
Doesn't think he has kids.
Doesn't even know if his kids are in school or not, or if he has children. So welcome, guys. I'm gonna even skip past your intros today because I want to get right into it. We
Yes.
talk about, everybody knows who you are. Everybody in the swimming community, they know the names Joel Rawlings and Eric Wyken, and you know, so really you should go without any introduction. What are we going to talk about today? We've got an interesting little snippet from a Green Bay Packer lineman. Is that an American football club?
Yeah. Sports ball up in the Great North.
Okay. Yeah. What state?
Wisconsin. Almost Canada. That's what we're called.
Almost.
Well, now it makes more sense why we're watching this. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to do a quick hit on short course European champs, and you guys are going to just kind of like go like, yeah.
Nod our heads.
Yeah. Do a great job nodding your heads. We're going to talk about Daya Seto going to Georgia, and Beryl Gastaldello going to train with Coley Stickles. We're going to give an update on the coachless horseman from University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, who swept Valparaiso and Youngstown State this past weekend. And finally, at the end, we're just going to do a little cap tip to Sage Hopkins. It's a story that, despite appearing on major news websites, every single person that I've run into in real life, I've had to explain it to them and tell them what's actually going on. So now we're going to do that on a podcast and hopefully get the multiplicative of effect of saying it to a bigger audience, bringing attention to something that we all think is really great. And then we're going to do a quick reaction because Katie Ledecky swam in a meet in Florida. She swam exhibition in the men's 500, which is like full on catnip for me. That's what I want. I want that. I want Ledecky racing the guys in a 500 free. Again, you're missing out on a marketing opportunity by not selling, a live stream of just Ledecky racing, distance. I want to let's get her in the 1,000 in the next meet and see.
They would make money off of just here's 1,000 1,000s. Here's any workout set that she's doing. I guarantee would probably make more money than the ISL right now.
Okay. Yeah.
That's low hanging fruit right there.
We're already coming with the spicy ISL jabs. Okay. So we're going to play this clip of this American football lineman.
I think he's right off the pitch with this one. So this,
yeah, he's come directly off the pitch after scoring a lot of touch goals, and he has some commentary. And we tested this once before we started recording. So I'm just gonna do like a quick unpluggy thingy here, and then hopefully we'll be ready to play it. I won't be able to hear you guys while I do this, so
that's fine.
Seamless.
It's Wisconsin centric cast again. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, and here we go.
The best way to describe this is everyone has an emotional bank account with people. Hopefully yours is, quote unquote, has a lot of money. Like, I look at my emotional bank account with a lot of guys in this locker room. There's been a lot of deposits. And unfortunately, you guys don't get to see the deposits. And sometimes they're daily, sometimes they're weekly, sometimes it's one big one every 2 or 3 months. But most of the time, y'all see the withdrawals, which is okay. Because if you have somebody who's making deposits, whether it's, big, small, incremental, or whatever, when they make the withdrawal, there's, emotional credit to give out. So that's how I feel anytime he says or does anything. And, you know, that's how I feel with a lot of my teammates is I get what you're saying. It doesn't matter how it comes out because I know you as a person and I trust you as a person. So whatever you need to say to get out of me, the correction or, you know, whatever happens in that moment, how it's communicated, that's okay with me because of prior deposits they put into our friendship.
All right. So I guess we should have given the context before we played it, but dropped. All right, we're okay. And the context is he's commenting about players, you know, especially himself, getting chewed out a little bit by the coach on the field or getting chewed out by their teammates. Is that right, Eric?
Yeah, that's right. This is in reference to a play that didn't go exactly the way I think he wanted to. And number 12, as I will refer to him from now on, was snapping on him a bit for missing an assignment or whatever it is that happened. So,
yeah. And I mean, it has, of course, natural applications to coaching. I, of course, because of my own background, I'm like, this guy's describing a key pillar of positive psychology, like to a T, which is the idea that this is always what I try to explain to people when they go like, well, does positive psychology mean, I'll stop sharing my screen. Does positive psychology mean, you know, that you shouldn't give negative feedback to people? I go, absolutely not. But what it does mean is if you're going to be really hard on somebody, it's important to build up some capital with them ahead of time. Like, and I think, you know, there was probably an era of coaching where you didn't have to work as hard to build up that capital, where you could just sort of skip to the tough part, right? The capital was almost assumed. And what we're seeing is sort of more and more a transition of players and athletes who expect that there's going to be some capital buildup so that when they're getting chewed out, they know sort of ahead of time, like, yeah, okay, this coach been really hard on me right now, or my teammates being really hard on me right now, but they really care about me. They want us to be successful. They want me to be successful. They want to be successful. And so they have that, you know, they have that built up so that, quite frankly, so that they're not completely, that they don't go into a sort of negative emotional tailspin when they're being addressed in that way. Joel, what was your reaction to it?
So I'm going to be the contrarian then.
Yeah,
though
let's see
I
it.
have no background in psychology. I would like to hear your opinion though. Wouldn't this also be a pillar of an abusive relationship? If you think, not that, you know, Aaron Rodgers is out there abusing this guy, and I'm
Right.
sure he's a, you know, high functioning adult, but let's just say, for instance, you're coaching, you know, 400 kids. You really don't know the background of all 400 kids within a program. And some of these kids are emotionally broken coming in. And so they're craving any kind of positive, anything positive at all. And so you give them that one kernel, and it seems like the hallmark of all these kind of abusive relationships, again, I'm taking the far end of the spectrum here, would be like, well, yeah, this person hits me, but says they love me. Yeah, sure, I've got it, you know, the X, Y, and Z, but they said that, you know, so you keep on giving little kernels. And so I'm wondering if part of this too is you see someone who's like, even this is probably a football player being 24, 25, I don't know. Still there's a little bit of old school in that, coaching in that, of like, you know, you're always going to get the breakdown. Again, why is it always you've got to keep on putting money in so that you can take the money out? Why can't you kind of keep on building up? And again, there's other ways to give constructive criticism. This is football. This is a different sport. This is different age group of people. I'm talking, you got 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds. Obviously, the level of criticism isn't going to be Aaron Rodgers laying into a 12-year-old girl, I would hope.
Yeah.
But you never know. But you see what I'm saying, though, is again, the problem with this is you never know the depth of a negative comment because of what also goes on in their lives at home. So, I mean, something that would seem pretty innocuous to you might actually strike a lot deeper for some. Right. And some rewards might seem like absolutely nothing throwaways. and they might mean the world to a kid. And I think that's also the danger we get into as coaches is there's so many different kids, or like when we both coach college kids, you don't know what their background was, A, at home, B, with age group coach, high school coach, whatever. And so I'm not saying walking on eggshells. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying also there's that depth of, you don't know what their background is, what they're bringing in, and how hurtful something might be. And therefore thinking that, well, I've got a bank account that's built up, not realizing that one comment might actually like just drain that bank more than you'll ever know.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to respond. Then I'm going to go to Eric
Good.
here in a second.
I'd like to hear his opinion.
Yeah. Because I think that we're mixing up a couple of things, and you know, back to some conversation that we were having back and forth on our texts earlier this week. I think there have to be, of course, like clear guidelines on what is appropriate coaching behavior and what's not, you know, and what's appropriate way to address your teammates and what's not. I don't see anything, any basic gray area for correcting behavior, you know? So like speaking, not personally, no like sort of personal attacks at like somebody's character or whatever, but the sort of just like, hey, you know, you were supposed to make that block over there, right? Which is probably the majority of, I would like to imagine that was the majority of what was said, you know, in this hypothetical conversation that we only saw, you know, lips moving on. And maybe it was a little bit worse than that. And I do think that stuff over time constitutes an abusive relationship. You know, it's like, I don't think I should go to jail for disagreeing with my wife every day, right? Well, maybe I should, I don't know, according to her. But anyway, I absolutely should be put in jail for hitting my wife, right? Because that's wrong behavior. Like that crosses the line, and it's very obvious, I think, to people, and it's abusive behavior. But there's nothing wrong with saying like, hey, I don't think that's the right thing to do, you know? And I think that's sort of what more of this is about. Of course, we don't know all those contexts, and yeah, maybe even some of the behavior stuff will land differently with different people based on their context. But I think if you stick to that, in my moral compass, like you're good.
Yeah. One quick thing there, and two, I wonder about the tonal qualities that you're addressing the person with, but also, I think sometimes like when we think, well, you know, you're going to get out in the business world, someone's going to yell at you. It's like, are they?
Really?
You know, again, it's like,
I've never been yelled at in the business world.
Exactly. But I've heard coaches say that, you know, where it's going to be tough out there. It's going to be tough. And so they reference back, and as you said, coaches should have a list of things. It's like, again, we don't have that. Again, I've never seen any Ask a Clinic where they're like, hey, here are, you know, these are certain boundaries. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's kind of where USA Swimming's gotten into trouble, is not having these boundaries. Even the most explicitly, like, boy, this is ridiculously simple. Like, lay it out there anyway. You know what the heck? Let's just get some of this down and again, kind of see, because instead of all coaches basically like, you refer back to how you were trained, you refer back to how you were coached until you start to learn a lot better. And so again, I'm not saying all coaches, I'm saying, you know, you're going to get some kids that are coaching, and I'm referring to kids like 24, 23, 22, 21, that the only frame of reference they have is that one age group coach they've had, good or bad. Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right, Eric, what do you got?
Okay.
You've been waiting so patiently.
Sorry, man. Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. It's all valid stuff. And I do agree with what Joel is speaking to, but then how do we solve that? And that's coaches having the understanding that if they are going to go and take a withdrawal, that they understand that athlete at least some level, there's a required investment in time in finding out a little bit more of what makes that athlete tick. Now, you're not going to get every single detail, but if you go to that athlete and you say like, hey, what's the best way for me to approach you with the criticism or something that you need to work on, then you're valuing who they are as a person and their opinion, and then you can have that kind of relationship. I don't know if that's what number 12 has had with this this Lucas Patrick. And by the way, I looked him up, and I mean, usually you have these stereotypes within football, and O linemen have a tendency to be a bit more on the stick out for all their undergrad and finish their degree. And he's got a double major in history and teaching.
Yeah.
So he's got background in some of this stuff. And it just, to me, it seems like there's probably not, like you said, there's not enough conversation, at least from USA Swimming down to coaches or ASCA down to coaches. And it's okay that, I mean, you could say that in the real world, there are going to be some interactions that kids have to be prepared for, but you can't just use that as your reason to just snap at kids and yell at them, and then to go beyond the behavior into the actual person, because it's a lot of times the 8-year-olds don't understand the difference between the behavior and the person that they are. It's just, that's their identity. You think they're stupid because of something they did. So it's like,
so wait, Eric, if it's rough out there in the city and you might get mugged, I can't just steal the wallets of the kids I coach because they need to prepare for the real world, or
if they,
we've seen your dues rates. You already are. But I think the reason that I went negative with mine was obviously with this relationship that we're talking about. Obviously, it's based on lies and gaslighting. Number 12 is to secret solve.
Okay.
So next topic.
All right. Next topic. Let's not touch on that Green
immunizations.
Bay quarterback and the difference between immunization and vaccination. I want to do a quick hit. I'm not going to like go event by event or anything and go through some of the results. I just want to sort of talk more conceptually about short course European championships. These are always super interesting meets to me. These post-Olympic like short course championships. We got the Euros, we got the World Champs coming up. I remember fondly of course, all my memories are, heavily biased towards one country, which nobody will be able to guess based on what I say. But I watched one country win a 400 medley relay title at the short course worlds, I think after the 2012 Olympics, including having their breaststroker do a grab relay start, which is a story I'll tell for the rest of my life. But I do think that these meets are just a really good opportunity if you're somebody who missed out on going to the Olympics or didn't have the Olympics that you wanted. I think to a certain extent, these meets can tend to be a little bit cleared out, probably a little bit lower competitive level than they typically are. And so it's a really nice opportunity for somebody to sort of get in there and start some positive momentum in the next cycle. And secondly, I just think, you could just see athletes in here that are better short course athletes. We're seeing more and more, I think, athletes that are sort of the pure short course people who partially due to the ISL, partially due to, better prize money at World Cups and stuff, are continuing to stick around. Like somewhere back in Slovenia, Peter Mancock is like, man, I was born 15 years too early. This would have been I would have been the ISL pro. So, I think it's been really nice to follow. Of course, Helena Rosendale Bach from Denmark got a silver medal in the 200 fly. So I was super excited about that. I was on a trip with her way back in 2015. And, I remember our national team coach at that time turning to her. She, I think, did not actually make our team in the 2 fly, but she was pretty good at it. And he went, what we could really use in this country? Somebody who's good at the 200 fly. And she sort of went like, all right. So to see her break through and get a medal, I think is really cool. You guys have done a great job nodding your head. So I really appreciate that.
I've only coached like 2 international kids I've ever been to this meeting. The thing is, they've always said it's a fun meet. Yeah. I've coached thousands of kids, a lot of other meets. Rarely do I hear the word fun meet for this stuff. And so, I mean, that's it's nice to have something like that. A high level meet that's also fun, there's also not like the crushing, maybe it's because it's, the crushing pressure of Olympics, and all of a sudden this is just, hey, we're doing a 50 fly down and back. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that's something where I know a lot of us old school coaches have been like, well, where's the 400 IM? This isn't fun. 400 IM, the mile, that's fun.
Right.
You know, because I want to run out and play the 400 IM game sometime. But yeah, I think that's the thing is it'd be nice if we can somehow incorporate more meets kind of like this, where again, I know we've always kind of tried, keep on applying the pump. Maybe it's not working, but that is one thing I've always heard is that I haven't been to one. I've just heard all the athletes I've known that have gone to these are just described as really fun meet and cool opportunity to meet a lot of swimmers from other countries.
You know what would be really fun? I mean, just you guys just bear with me here for a second. We got the World Short Course Championships coming up. What if the guy who had just broken the world record in the 100 backstroke got to compete at that meet? Wouldn't that be really?
fun? I think we need some sort of qualifying standards first. Sure, it's a world record. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. But what have you done lately? You know what I mean?
Yeah, Reno never won a Super Bowl, so I mean, obviously it's not all. It's a team competition sometimes.
All right,
I have no idea.
Let's get on to some of these pro swimmers. So Diaceto, we didn't cover this on the podcast, so we're going to sort of jump in midway through this story. But I think he's a high level Japanese international swimmer. And one of the things that has always struck me over my time being a swim fan is how insular the Japanese swimming culture is. Like, I really honestly know almost nothing about what goes on over there, what the practices are like what the meets are like, what anything is like. And very few athletes, in fact, I'm struggling to find, I guess Kitajima did a tour in Southern California. At
Once
one point.
He was sticking around with Salo for a hot minute because Salo's the breaststroke guru guy.
Right. But otherwise, it's been very, very rare that an athlete has left Japan to go train somewhere else. And Seto sort of announced that he was going to come to the US to train, but he wasn't necessarily camping out in one place. He was going to do a little tour. And his first stop on that tour was Georgia. What do you think of Georgia as a first stop for Diaceto, Eric?
I don't know. It's kind of funny that I had that harebrained idea for Katie Ledecky to do that tour.
I was going to give you the tip of the cut.
Yeah, and bounce around programs. And then, obviously then he comes along and he's like, I think at some point they just got to be like, why am I staying home? Like, I mean, Japan's a wonderful country. Don't get me wrong. I haven't been there yet, but it's like, there are a lot of fast people in America, and he has the resources to do this. Why is it happening? And now he's obviously got a little bit more control of his career. I think it's great. I think he's got a tremendous opportunity there. It's a beautiful facility. He's got Kalish there. I think is still there full time. And then, he's got, I forgot who else is out there at this point. That other IMer, what's his name? Got second, I think. But
the Litherland.
Yeah, well, both Litherlands I think are out there too.
All the Litherlands, Litherland triplets. I don't know that all of them are still swimming, but yes.
No. But sorry about that. No offense, Jay. But yeah, it's great to see it. I'm surprised not more pros are doing it. I guess he's being a little bit more public because he is their best swimmer. Now SwimSwam has got a hold of all the information in the swimming world. So I'm excited to see how this turns out. If we're going to get any practice footage, like just even an in-practice end of session 200 or 400 IM, and just that's all I want to see. Like, I want to see them get at it and then see what he decides next. Like, not that he would have a press conference, but just have like a quick interview and be like, yeah, I'm headed to Southern California, or I'm going to go to Florida. It wouldn't surprise me if he jumped down to Florida for a hot minute, or went to Georgia Tech, just went there for a bit. So
got confused and just went to Atlanta by mistake. He was going to the airport and he was just like, oh, there's a pool here. Maybe I'll
hang out.
Yeah, maybe I'll hang out and do some workouts. No, I do think Cody Miller needs to reach out, because there's a missed social media opportunity for her. There could be, we could be talk about
road
content.
trip.
Yeah, there's some content to be made. There's a fish out of water story, like I don't know how many times has he been to America? Like, I need to see video the first time he goes to a Waffle House, like what that looks like. So there's really,
that's definitely the crazy train everyone should be hopping on. Yeah.
Right.
I remember being in a meet in California once, and a team came over from Japan, and I was thinking, like you said, they're very insular and they kind of keep to themselves. They do their thing. And I remember one of the coaches obviously went out shopping. He didn't have a firm grasp of the English language quite yet. I guess he had like an F this jacket, except it didn't say F this. It was the full F bomb this.
Yes.
And he's wearing that on the deck. And he's like, I don't know if maybe he does. Maybe he knows exactly what this means. And he's like, I just was not impressed with the swim meet, I guess. But
no, you know what? My brother-in-law does live in Japan, and he will text us on a fairly frequent basis, people in Japan wearing very explicit like t-shirts and sweatshirts. So it's almost like it's like a fashion thing. I think a cultural but it's never explained to me whether they know what it is.
Yeah.
But there's a culture around that.
But I think this is like especially the year after the Olympics. What a great thing to do. I think why not? Especially if you've got kind of an idea of what you're going to be doing training wise. Just looking for maybe some new ideas. Where like I remember years back when Ian Thorpe was trying to make that comeback. He came in. I think he trained out in California for a little bit, and he just liked being on a different team for a little bit. It was just the novelty was pretty cool and kept it a little more fresh for him. And maybe again something where if someone's career is stagnating, and it's not just because they're not swimming well, but just mentally they just need a change. And I think that'd be great to change up the venue. It'd be a great opportunity for a lot of people to do that.
Yeah. All right. Can we move on to Castaldello, who the French Olympian, who's going to train with our man? I don't know why I called him our man, Coley Stickles in Nebraska. And
we don't know if she's going to Omaha, but
Coley's in Omaha, right? Eric's our local expert on, what's going on in Nebraska swimming.
On all the flyover countries.
That's right. He knows, right?
Yes.
Because
states.
Context for people, Coley Stickles was up until midway through last year the head coach of the University of Alabama. He's originally from Nebraska, and that'll been a lot of details. He's coaching in the ISL this season with the Tokyo Frog Kings, and then apparently has also returned to his home state to do a little bit of coaching. What else do we know, Eric?
That I can't imagine Brule has left College Station. She has the opportunity to maybe just have a lane and do the workouts that are prescribed to her. Doesn't seem to be a very public person in terms of where she is. I haven't really gone into her Instagram to see if she's posting pictures from some other place. I can tell you there's not a lot of water in Nebraska, and certainly not the kind of water that she might or need or the time or whatever it is. It's certainly a cheap place to travel, but if I was going to switch coaches to one that was currently in flyover country, that it wouldn't be to Nebraska in the winter. But it's happening where athletes are either training themselves, or just getting workouts from somebody else, and then having somebody else just coach them through it and get feedback and go through that. I know we're seeing that a lot more with sprinters and older sprinters and swimmers and stuff like that. But she had a lot of success training with the pro group there at A&M, doing a really good job there under Jason Kalinaga. Maybe again, looking just for something a little bit different style of training for a little bit. And maybe it's helpful going into ISL. What Coley does is high intensity. It's
definitely different, right?
Yeah. Seeing the workouts that we've seen, there's a lot of high intensity. He does a ton of extensive research on physiology and some of the adaptations of some of the work that he's doing, and he's very into the science of it. So I'm sure it's something that he can get somebody who's very into the 50 and 100 to wrap their head around doing 12 and a halfs this and 50s of that, 75s all out, and dropping equipment, adding parachutes. It's a lot a lot of shifting around to maximizing specific things at specific times. So be excited to see what comes of it. I'm hopeful for her. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how to feel about it. I sort of want to loop this back into what we started with, which is I think relates directly to Coley. And we had a period where we were pretty friendly with each other, but we had some particular disagreements, and it has to do again with what we started by discussing. And so and I don't know that any of this has changed with Coley, but when you look at the way he constructs a practice, like I find myself very envious of the creativity, of the sort of way that he can come up with new ways to accomplish things. And it's quite obvious that he has some skills that can be really transformative to a swimmer. The thing that I always ended up disagreeing with him was I disagreed with the way that he communicated with athletes that he coached. I mean, I was like sitting right there as he was saying some things that I just didn't agree with. I thought crossed the line, and his sort of response to me was like, yeah, well, but I'm so great and so innovative that, I can get away with it. And I was sort of like, no. So I hope for his sake, I hope for her sake that has changed, but I don't hold out that much hope that it has. And I have talked to him a couple of times since he stopped coaching at Alabama. So it's not based on nothing recently, but that's sort of where I am with the Coley stuff. Joel, you have anything to add?
I've often heard that Omaha is the Paris of the Midwest, and so it seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to a lighter note. I think this is going to become an ongoing, we're going to have to talk about this like every week, maybe. University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. As I said earlier, they swept. Eric was saying, just as we were about to go live on this podcast, that they had why don't you say it, Eric? Talk about the 50 freestyler that you were mentioning.
Just released yesterday that they had a senior swimmer win Horizon Swimmer of the Week. Has gone undefeated so far this season and popped off a 20.3 in their dual meet sweep of Valpo and Youngstown State. I believe Youngstown State is women only. But the truth of the matter is that he's posting these times that you see within the results too. They got a breaststroker going 56.0, which is it super, super fast. But in the mid-major world, being able to go 56.0 in season is really fast. Yep. And all of these things are happening, and you go to the website and there is no volunteer swim coach. There's just the dive coach and the kids. So
the roster.
It's incredible to me to think that these kids are showing up every day and putting together, if they're getting workouts from somebody, like one of their club coaches is just supplementing or just giving them an idea. But then on top of that, they're doing it. They're doing the work. Otherwise they wouldn't be going all that fast, or it wouldn't be all that organized. So these kids have really circled the wagon, so to speak, with this, it's us against the world. And we are just going to do the best that we can with what we've got. And I'm here for it. I'm loving every minute of this. Every time results come from them, even if they lose, it's like they're doing this on their own. They're constructing their lineups on their own. This is great. I love this. I mean, I hate the fact that Green Bay can't put together enough money to actually hire somebody who wants to stick around for more than a year. Right. But that's besides the point. I'm absolutely intrigued by this whole situation.
Yeah.
That is
I don't think it's not a question of they can't put them. They can always put the money together. Every university I've ever worked at, they've never had money.
You know what I mean, Joel.
Until
they just don't want to.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
The
The whole conference is the island of misfit toys of just a bunch of teams that no university cares about. It's just Oakland. Basically, yeah. There's one where obviously they do care. They got a 50-meter pool, but yeah, it's you see this a lot with club swimming, like University of Colorado Boulder. They've got a huge club team.
Yeah.
And, but they actually pay their own, they pay for their own coach. And I think a lot of these things that are student driven are pretty cool. I've always liked that. I mean, there's a lot of club teams out there that do club team championships. And it's pretty great that they do this. And it's really, obviously the issue is like, this is a Division I team that's still supposedly sponsoring their team, which makes it kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But again, I think a lot of times when we talk about swimming, people think like, Cal Berkeley, Stanford. It's like Division I swimming, is such a spectrum of things it makes Division III almost like homogenous, where again,
Right.
it's just like, you've got the Emorys of the world down to like, some team that has 4 kids and a coach and a van.
Right.
But that's exactly what this is too. So, I mean, obviously the SID guy is doing his job at Green Bay. He's getting kids in, getting kids awards. But yeah, it's one of those things where you kind of wonder about the state of the swimming. But again, I think it's pretty cool that just club sports, intramural sports in general, I think are really, really pretty good and pretty healthy for kids to keep on doing.
Yeah. I want to wrap it by saying, if you're on University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, and you hear this, like, please reach out. You can find that I actually have a contact button on my website, christycoach.com. You can send me an email there. If you know somebody that's on University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, reach out. We want to have you on the podcast. We want to talk to you. We want to find out what the hell is going on and tell this amazing story, because we're having a lot of fun.
We want to celebrate you.
Yeah.
We want to celebrate what's going on.
Exactly. All right. Let's get to a story. And Eric, I'm going to let you share it because you were the one who shared it in the first place. A great piece of news. I think something that we just think deserves a little bit more attention. This story of Sage Hopkins and Steve O'Brien at San Jose State University and the city of San Jose.
Yeah. So this also hits a little bit closer to home for me. So before I left the coaching world, I was in Nebraska for 9 years and coaching for a club team. And one of the swimmers that I coached for pretty much the entire time I was there with that club, after I left, signed with San Jose State. So she is currently a junior, a COVID junior, so to speak, out there, and just kind of keeping tabs with her and touching base with her on some of the other things, not knowing what was going on. She had mentioned something about things in the athletic department not going well, but then unbeknownst to me that there was an issue with somebody within the athletic department assaulting women and athletes in general. And
so
you had
a trainer, and
yeah, a trainer. Sorry.
He was touching some athletes in a way that had no medical training purpose.
In a way that did not do anything for them in terms of their ability to compete. At which point the athletes came forward, said something, and immediately it was turned around back on Steve O'Brien and Sage Hopkins. Sage Hopkins brought it forward and then was subsequently, I guess, was given some kind of slap on the wrist. In the moment, the Steve O'Brien, the deputy athletic director, was told not to bring it forward. He was fired as a result of that. And at which point, as things all came through, the city council acknowledged the two of them for their efforts in keeping athletes safe. And we just don't see enough of these stories.
Yeah.
We just don't.
I want to highlight a few key details here because I think they're really important. So you have the trainer, he's touching athletes in a way that's just not right. He's crossing the line. Athletes make a complaint. The coach takes it forward. Now, the university initially, what they did is they reverted back and said this was, quote, pressure point therapy, I believe was their term, which has some real Larry Nassar vibes, in my opinion, in terms of the way you might describe some of the stuff. And I think, God bless you if you've never come across a situation like this in coaching, but I think there's a really important example here in that Sage Hopkins didn't take that as a resolution of this. he pressed ahead. He put his whole career on the line because he wanted to take it to the NCAA and keep escalating it until there was a real resolution to what was happening. So hat tip to him for having the character and fortitude to lay it all on the line for his athletes. I think that's definitely to be applauded.
It's Steve O'Brien.
And Steve O'Brien as well. Yes.
He lost his job as a result.
And he lost his job.
Yeah.
And the school had to basically is in a position where they can't criticize these guys, but they don't love this story.
Yeah.
And they don't love this story because, it exposes the sort of lengths they went to cover up their own scandal. And somebody was asking me, actually Shackelford, just, my obligatory Shackle. He's like, how does this happen? I go, look, because we were talking about too, what's going on with the Blackhawks and the NHL. People have been following that story. So how does this happen? Like, why do they always choose to cover it up? I go, because 99 times out of 100, it goes away if you cover it up.
Well, I think,
yeah.
What you're seeing with that, the thing is that two kind of layers. The first layer of obviously going right to the, right and identifying the problem and trying to make something happen. People like, well, yeah, that's a no brainer. Why wouldn't you help a kid? But you just kind of touched on that second layer, like why does it happen and why is it hard for it to happen? I think every university's policy in these things should be like very, very transparent. It's like they basically like calling the police at a lot of universities might not even be in the top 4 of
right.
things that you should be doing. And really it's like for a rational, competent adult, it'd be like, that would be number 1, isn't it?
Right. That would be the first thing you do.
Right. And now you have not followed university protocol. And now it's like, again, if they tell you to do something and now all of a sudden you're not doing it, then it becomes like one of those things where, you're probably going to lose your job and lose your pension. And there's that pressure of like, listen, it's pressure therapy, whatever. Again, they can put a lot of pressure down like this. And the higher up you go, the less it seems to be about athletics and more about brand management and about the millions of dollars that they can make, not this particular university, but in general, like a Notre Dame or obviously Penn State, where it's millions upon millions of dollars and they've got a brand to manage and manipulate. And so for them, they just want to sweep things under the table because they don't want something to, mess with that bottom line.
Yeah.
And so, like you're saying, this is phenomenal that, again, how many coaches like, I did my job, I did what I was supposed to do, and they told me pressure point, and now I've got to move forward. Right. Versus someone like, screw it. I'm calling in the airstrike. We're burning the whole place down if we need to. That's fine.
Right.
And again, I 100% applaud that. Yeah.
Okay. And finally, Katie Ledecky swam in a dual meet for Florida, swam exhibition with the men 500 free, went 4:30. And we're not going to play the clip, but we did all watch a 5-second clip of her swimming. So now I'm going to go immediately back to you, Joel. In that 5 seconds of swimming, what are you thinking for Katie Ledecky right now? How does she look in comparison to what you saw last summer?
I didn't like it. Next. No,
you still don't like it.
It looks the same.
You can just look right at the right side of the body, like in the obliques, just the hinge point there and how the breathing is going. Again, I'm sure. Again, it's not like the Olympics tomorrow. Something that everything will get ironed out at some point. It's a brand new. She's not
been training there very long. Yeah,
right. Hasn't been training there long. So 4:30 for not training long is great. But again, she's such a rarefied air talent that again, she'll beat people with carrying a brick on her back if she wanted to. But I think there's still a ways to go as far as getting the stroke back to I think how she'd want it.
Yeah, Eric, Katie Ledecky thoughts?
Yeah, I agreed. Watching that little bit of a clip as it's a very pedestrian looking freestyle at this point. It looks very raw. I mean, it's 4:30. It's a solid time for right now. We don't know what she's going through. We don't actually know where within that 500 she was. So for all we know, maybe that first 100 was more of the stroke that she wants. And then it's just a matter of it doesn't last that long. But the long and short of it is I'm excited to see more of these. I hope we get to see entire races of her against those pros. Nothing would be great. Like you said, this is a huge missed opportunity to be able to stream a distance freestyle practice for all the swim nerds out there, and people would pay. I don't think it's like 50 cents, $1, $2, whatever it is. I'll pay whatever it is to the Florida Swimming and Diving Fund to watch some of these practices. It's not a big deal. But yeah, I mean, the stroke itself was just like, it's a wait and see. It's not 2024, it's 2021. So yeah, that was kind of meh, but like I said, it's great to see her racing, guys.
I think she looked great, and I think you guys are a bunch of haters. Okay?
Haters. Yeah.
I think it looked great, and I can't believe that I share a podcast with two guys who are so doubtful of the GOAT, Katie Ledecky. Shame on you.
Yeah.
Shame on both of you.
Deal with it.
Joel, you should probably apologize to the people at Stanford once
Yeah,
again.
but what I
comments and
really
your
enjoy
actions.
now is how we've become so polarized in general with everything, sports and things like that, where if anyone ever says anything, there's no nuances to it. It's just like,
Right.
well, you're obviously in the hater camp, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yes. Right now, then if that's the hill I'm going to die on, I'm dying on the hater hill right now.
I will take your well-articulated and reasoned, very specific criticism of her stroke and summarize it by calling you a hater. That's what I
She's
will
a
do.
bad person. I think she actually is. I'm sure when you swim like that, it means you drown kitties in rivers.
Yeah.
Yep. I saw her push an old person down a hill once.
Oh my gosh.
So
Guys,
you don't have to. You see the stroke, you know
Guys.
what happens. It just
Guys.
leads to heroin abuse.
get a hold. Okay. All right. Get a hold of yourself. I don't even know what to do. We've got to stop this podcast before it gets any worse. Thank you to everybody for listening. Whoever is still possibly listening to this, hanging in all the way to the end.
Appreciate it.
We really appreciate you, and we'll see you again next week.
All right.